You know, back in 2010, I just had this crazy thing that I woke up with, and what it was, I was lying there in bed, and just suddenly this phrase just kind of popped in my head, and it was just a real simple one that said, "Come into my garden, my sister, my bride, come into my garden." And it kind of confused me at first, and then I just began to kind of think about it a little bit more. And there's that verse is actually one that's found in Song of Solomon. So I just began to think about it and just kind of talk to Jesus about it, just in my heart and in my head. And all of a sudden, then I began remembering some silk that I had just in storage back in the back of my garage, and I just really wanted to go get the silk. And so I went and got the silk, pulled it out, not really knowing what I was going to do with it. I just knew it had something to do with the garden. Well, I've dyed fabrics in the past in different places and doing different things with them. So I took the silk and stretched it out on my kitchen table. I'm still kind of wondering what I'm going to do with the silk. I gathered the rubber bands and just the different things that you use in the silk to dye them. And I just began kind of gathering the fabric up in different places. I would gather it and I'd put a rubber band on it, and I would gather it in another place. And the whole time I'm kind of remembering that verse, and in my heart I'm talking to Jesus in the process about where to gather the silk and how to move the silk and what to do with it. Well, by the time I finished, this big 42 by 72 piece of silk is now the right size to fit in my hand. And so I just kind of look at it and I think, all right, it needs color. So I go, and in that same box where I found the silk, I have my dyes. I mix up the dyes, I set them out, and I just begin to apply the dyes in the different places on that silk, just very, very slowly, because I know that this piece of silk is going to have something to do with a garden. So I apply the dye in all these different places. I get it all saturated with the color. I know from experience that the silk has got to stay wet for 24 hours in order for the dyes to actually attach to the fibers of the silk. So I take it and I slip it inside a plastic bag, zip it shut, and I'm looking around the kitchen trying to find a place to put the silk. And my stereo catches my eye. And I leave worship music on all the time. And so I thought, I'm just going to place that silk up there by those speakers and just let it just soak for 24 hours just in the midst of that music, and just see what happens. Did that, went on about my day, came back the next day and began washing it out. And the colors of that silk were just different. They seemed more vibrant for some reason. And so I began to just kind of wonder why those colors were more vibrant. And then it just kind of hit me. Why? Silk is actually a living fiber. And so while that living fiber is saturated with the different colors of the dyes, it was sitting in front of the vibration of that music that I had on the stereo. And so I began to feel like that perhaps the vibration of that music was affecting the way that silk was receiving the dyes. And so I continued to every time I do silk, I just continue that same process, and I've continued to have just a lot of success in having some really beautiful silks created. When someone walks into my studio and they want to look at silks, I love to watch them, because they walk over and then they're reaching out and they're just touching the silk, and the next thing I know, they're taking the silk and they are just wrapping the silk around themselves. They're tying it in all these different ways, and it's like the atmosphere, their mood just kind of changes a little bit. This may sound odd to you, but I really feel like the process that each one of these silks have gone through of being prayed for and of literally soaking in worship music for 24 hours, I believe it affects the fiber, it affects the silks, and it affects the beauty of those silks.